Okay, so if you're joining me, this is a very impromptu episode of Boogeyman, in which I play a little bit of the horror game Amnesia. The Amnesia collection dropped a little while ago, and let me just see if I can change the sounds down a little bit, because I just do it manually on my TV. So this is a little bit of an experiment on my part. Just basically going through the game Amnesia, talking about interactive horror. I actually quite enjoy interactive horror because I think it kind of makes it a little bit more scary when it's not a protagonist that you have to learn about, that you worry about dying, but your character. So the game I'm playing is a game called Amnesia. It pretty much spawned a new flurry of horror video games. It inspired games like Outlast, and even possibly the new Resident Evil 7 that's coming soon. So yeah, let's just get into it. We'll go and we'll talk about what makes interactive horror so creepy. So if you're joining us, welcome to a very special and experimental episode of The Boogeyman. If this is an epic failure, you probably will never see this. Hopefully, though, it will not be an epic failure. Okay, so I started Amnesia a little bit, not very far. I think I've only encountered one creature that may or may not have been anywhere near attacking me. The game kind of starts really slowly and introduces you to the mechanics before throwing the monsters at you. It's kind of a slow build that way. So I'm a little bit into the game. So let's see what there is. This is obviously unscripted and going to be very kind of clumsy. But like I said, it's an experiment. I just wanted to kind of explore interactive fiction, and I figured this would be a good opportunity to do something a little different. Okay, so I'm already kind of half insane. It's the wobbliness of the camera. It's very puzzle oriented. Right now, I'm trying to get this thing to work. This button here. It's stuck. Something is moving. The gameplay kind of reminds me a little bit of Mist. Too heavy to lift by hand. Oh, okay. So that's what I'm trying to do. It reminds me a little bit of Mist in the respect that it has a heavy emphasis on exploration and trying to figure things out. Stuff is what's making me insane. And just kind of, they give you kind of a world to explore. They don't really give you a ton of explanation as to what you're going through. These little tinder boxes light fires. So basically the mechanic is that when you're in the dark or being faced with monsters, you eventually start to lose sanity, and the screen gets all wobbly, and breathing starts to get heavy. Just put that there. And so you're trying to avoid that. And when you see disturbing things, they say that, or when you're in the dark. Bones. I'm gonna pick up the bones. No, I can't pick up the bones. When you're in the dark or when you're facing enemies or anything like that, you start to lose sanity. You can regain it by going into the light, or that's me kind of losing sanity a little bit. Whoa. Not sure what's going on. Maybe give myself some light. Yeah, see there, it kind of brought me back from the brink of craziness. This doesn't happen again. So that's what those tinder boxes are. They kind of give you a little bit of light so you can rest easy, but the downside of the light is that monsters can see you better if they break into the room, because you can only hide from the monsters in the dark. So it's kind of a nice back and forth that way. But I actually quite like this mechanic.
25th of June, 1839. I feel the need to continue this journal, even though it was intended for my journey to Africa. This must be something very important. I just know it. I've taken it upon myself to piece the orb back together, but it's been more difficult than one might think. The pieces are behaving strangely. They seem to change color, shape, and texture, but ever so slightly. Yesterday, I took careful measurements and notated any significant markings. Today, I confirmed my suspicions. They were changing. I was terrified and rushed off to see the finest geologist in London, Sir William Smith. I approached the subject with care, and we discussed how rocks change form. He told me about the nature of glass, how it eventually collapses on itself, like ice slowly melting over the course of centuries. Smith eased my mind a bit, but I can't escape the feeling that these shards have otherworldly properties.
So, as you can tell, it has quite a bit of backstory to the game. Just pause it for a second while I go through the backstory. So, my character essentially was part of an, how to put it, a sort of excavation mission in which I encountered these very strange artifacts, and I don't want to say too much more than that, because I don't want to spoil the story, but it actually has some very nice Lovecraftian tones to it. So it has some basic Lovecraftian tones to it. Talks about impossible geometry and things outside of the world. Outside of our consciousness and stuff like that. And again, I don't want to spoil a whole lot, but it's probably one of the nicest representations of a Lovecraftian vibe I've seen since, Bloodborne or the Call of Cthulhu game. Lovecraft's kind of a difficult thing to portray in video game form because he's all about a lot of abstract things. Things that drive men and women to madness because there's doing. So this clogs. It's stuck. Something is clogging the crank and pulley contraption. Okay, so I don't see anything really. Oh, I gotta get that stick. Is that the stick? Oh. So I'm not really sure what's blocking me from being able to use this pulley. I'm guessing it's this stick. I'm guessing. Some of the puzzles are a little bit old school in the respect they don't really give you a ton. They don't really hold your hand, I guess. So maybe I have to move some of these boxes so we can actually be able to step on there. Sometimes you can do that and make yourself little kind of steps and stuff. They don't really hold your hand. They make it kind of, well, not kind of, very obscure what you're supposed to do next. You kind of have to just dink around until you figure it out. Oh, yep, there we go. There we go. That did it. And that's kind of, I think, what makes it remind me. I'm guessing that's open now. Yeah, that's what makes it remind me of Myst a little bit. Is just that very cerebral. I fall down there. I'm gonna be all psycho for a second. So this red stuff makes me psycho. As you can see, so we gotta get out of here relatively quickly. So yeah. So this game dropped, I think, on the 22nd, I believe, of this month. I didn't actually know about its drop until relatively recently. I've played a little bit of it on the PC. I believe I ended up purchasing it from Steam. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of. Oh! Ah, fuck off! Thanks for telling me that now, game. So apparently I'm supposed to keep out of the water. Well... So this is actually the first time I've died. I'm not sure how the death... Well, okay, so I'm gonna get the hell out of... Hey. An interesting mechanic there. I kind of want to explore this room, but I'm scared to go into the water now. And that's an interesting thing about video game horror. I think this is unscripted. Oh, chuba chuba. Into the... Okay! Get on the box, get on the box! Is it a dude that's just invisible, or is it... Yes. Okay, so... My usual kind of puzzle-solving abilities in games usually runs, if I can interact with it, I will. And that kind of is how I judge and I'm playing around my games. But I'll take this kind of, hopefully, not dangerous moment to talk a little bit about interactive horror and horror in video games. As I was saying before, one of the interesting things is that it's not a protagonist that you may or may not connect to faces with unseen, literally unseen horror. It's you playing the game that is literally confronting whatever it is personally. And it makes it a little bit more visceral. And this is one of those games that really understands that and plays with it to try to mess with the player. And horror, and even just in terms of video games, video games have been kind of messing with the player for quite a while now. I still remember in the early days of the PlayStation 1. It does not want to leave. It doesn't want to leave me alone. I still remember in the early days of the PlayStation 1 where Metal Gear Solid, I think it was the first or second one, I can't remember which, but when that first dropped, I remember playing it. There's a level where you could only beat the boss if you unplugged the controller and plugged it back into the second port, which I thought was fascinating. And there was also another game in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. It might have been the same one where, actually I think it was the same one where the boss actually went through your memory card and talked about the other games you were playing at the time. And that kind of fourth wall break was extremely interesting to me, and kind of really opened my eyes to the kind of interesting stories that can only be told through interactive fiction. Yeah, let's just stop yapping. That ticking makes me believe countdown of some sort. Oh crap! The next one. Yep. So you don't really have any health in this game per se. You just kind of the screen turns red when you go insane. Yeah. So the thing that you're actually keeping track of is not health, but keep out of the water. So the thing that you're so the thing you're keeping track of, and I'm not sure if that lever's going to be there. Well, let's figure out what I'm doing with the lever first. Okay, so you're not really keeping track of health per se. What you are keeping track of is your sanity, and if you lose all your sanity, then basically what happens is you die. So I don't think I got physically hurt back there. I think I just got so terrified that I just kind of I guess that's how I think it works. This is why I kind of hesitated to do this. I wasn't sure if playing the game at the same time as commenting would work. So I have a little bit of I have a little bit of, I don't want to say I have ADD, but I get distracted quite easily, obviously, as you can tell. So this might not have been the best idea. Gotta admit, not a big fan of platforming. This part is kind of going to probably distract me a lot more than the other part. So yeah, one of the things that I like about interactive fiction is think of, well, there's quite a few things I think that you enjoy about this operandi. And one of the things I find fascinating is games have gone quite a long way, actually, in terms of lighting effects, which you can see here, and just in terms of little things that make what they call environmental storytelling quite engrossing. And that's something that other media like books try. This gate at the end will open. That's a long. Things like movies and books, they can't really make you feel quite as directly in danger as this. Like, I'm playing this and I'm actually I wouldn't say scared because I'm not a really much of a scaredy cat. I dilly-dally too much. I'm not very much of a scaredy cat when it comes to stuff like this, but that being said, this is quite, like, whoa, that's close. Look, a dead body. Body parts. Just again, just a nice little touch to the environment. So yeah, it's one of the things that, you know, with movie, you have a set amount of time to watch. The story kind of has a very set time frame. Whereas this, you know, I can kind of explore it. Whoa. Did I kill him? Did I kill him? Nope. Getting really angry by hitting him with a box. So that. Okay, so again, this is a little bit of a puzzle. I'm guessing that, yeah. So I'm probably going to have to kind of try to hop, skip, and jump my way across. So I'm just gonna, you know, I just wanted to kind of explore with you guys a little, just in one of my favorite games. You know, the Amnesia series is about one I've been following, not necessarily playing, but following for a few years now. And like I said, it inspired a lot of different video games. I'm just going to save and exit. It inspired a lot of modern video games that kind of went to critical acclaim. Games like Outlast and its sequel, Whistleblower. Trying to think of other games like Daylight. And it kind of also ushered in a new appreciation for Lovecraftian themes, I think. I'm not sure exactly if Bloodborne and the makers of Bloodborne were inspired by Amnesia, but I feel like Amnesia at least made it... It at least made for Lovecraftian themes to be in the consciousness of gamers a little bit more explicitly, and you know, kind of open the doors for that. Other games like Final Fantasy has a whole lot of mythological characters, some of which have a little bit of a Lovecraftian vibe to them. But for the, you know, again, like I said, a movie or a book, you're experiencing things told from another storyteller's eyes. Here in interactive fiction, it's a little bit different. Basically, you're put into a world, and you are the character. So the things you do kind of make for a story, and it complete the story. They add the final bit, which is the hero part, the protagonist. You are the protagonist of the video game, and like you've seen when I threw the box at the monster, that might not have even been scripted to behave like that. Maybe there is ways to attack the monster a little bit. But I don't think the programmers necessarily wanted to tell the story that way. That was the story to that moment, was that I was supposed to hit him with the box and gurgles. So that kind of makes every time and every person that plays a game makes the story just slightly different. And now obviously with books and movies, the person who is encountering the story is going to encounter the story in subtly different ways. They might relate to different characters than another audience member, or they might I don't know. It is a little different for every person how you relate to a movie, but in interactive fiction, it's explicitly different for every person. The story is literally different for every person in terms of, you might encounter a glitch. Like, I'm not even sure if the monster was supposed to freak out when I dropped the box on his foot, or if that was just a glitch. there's an almost infinite amount of possibilities. Not quite infinite, but there is quite an astronomical amount of possibilities in terms of the stories that are possible through interactive fiction. So yes, I want to exit to the main menu and save my progress. One thing I will say about this game in terms of I guess a review of it, when it dropped for the PS4, the Amnesia collection, I jumped on it right away. I'm still figuring out a little bit how to play the game. Like I said, I did play Amnesia a little bit before. But one of the things that I really don't like about this specific collection, and it's a very minor nitpick, but there's no way to, once you're in, it comes with a package of 3 Amnesia games. There's Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Amnesia Justine, which is basically an add-on to The Dark Descent, and Amnesia... Machine for Pigs. I want to actually show you a little bit of the other games, but I'm not sure how to do that without actually closing this game, which I'm not sure if it'll stop my broadcast. Closing this game and going back in, so there's no real way to get to the other games, which I quite dislike. And I actually only realize now that when I try to switch games, it actually knocks me offline. So yeah, I'm not really sure how this game expects you to jump from game to game. I guess it doesn't really... the developers probably expected players to go through it on a sequential level, like go into Amnesia: The Dark Descent, beat that, and then go into Justine, beat that, and then go into Machine for Pigs, which is essentially Amnesia's... I don't want to call it sequel because it's set in... it's set in the same universe, but not quite the same world as Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It's hinted strongly that your character... I guess it's hinted strongly that your character is related to the character that you play in The Dark Descent. But it's not really... Like, I could see people wanting to play a little bit of each game as they go, rather than just be it sequentially. So it's a minor nitpick, but I really wish there was a way to get into each game without going out of the game and going back in. As you can see on the bottom right, there's only movement up and down the menu, and to select it, there's no way to back out any further than this, unless there's a way to load. So I'll just make autosaves. So yeah, there is actually, now that I popped into the game options, there is actually a nice little feature that comments on the game as you go. It gives you comments from the developers, which is actually quite nice. A little bit akin to the commentary on a DVD or Blu-ray. When you set the director's commentary on, it's essentially the same thing. But yeah, so that's my playthrough of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I guess I'll leave it at that. I highly recommend the game, and I highly recommend the games that it inspired, like Outlast and Outlast Whistleblower. Both of those can be found on PS4 and Xbox One. You know, as the Boogeyman, as a horror enthusiast, I'm a horror enthusiast across all different media, across books, movies, and video games. And there's each different media holds different possibilities. You know, a book is creepy because you're reading it by yourself. There's nothing else lighting the room. You are very engrossed mentally into a book. Movie has visuals and characters that you hopefully relate to and can have a visceral story that way. Video games are quite special in the respect that, like I said, it's you playing the game. It's you going through these haunted catacombs, and especially with game developers like Frictional Games, who made the Amnesia series and Soma later, which is another game I highly recommend. They put in a huge amount of. I wonder if I start a new game if it'll get rid of my save. Well, anyways, they put in, even as you could tell in this title menu, they put in a lot of effort in terms of the detail, in terms of the atmosphere. Like you could see the dust kind of poofing around and floating, and the lighting effects, and the light rays going on in the next room, and the little drops of blood or whatever that's supposed to be kind of leading your way. They put a lot of effort into creating this environment for you to go through that is extremely detailed and extremely creepy, in a way that I think movies can emulate for sure, but with really great art design. But it's not quite the same as you choosing to go through. Like if I wanted to just really just walk up and explore the different textures of the walls. I could like there's one part of the game where there's a room filled with these I guess Renaissance era paintings, or I'm not up on my painting lore enough to know who they were, but I recognized them as famous paintings. And I could stop and look, and in a movie oftentimes there's things that just zip by that unless you want to wear out the pause button, you don't really get a chance to embrace that way. But yeah, I think I've yammered long enough. I think I've bored you long enough. I think this video has gone on long enough for an experiment. If you liked what you've seen, and if you agree with me on things, or even disagree with me, especially if you disagree with me, I love a good debate. Certainly comment below. If you want to see more of these sort of impromptu, unscripted videos, certainly let me know. Or if you think this was a huge, utter failure, certainly let me know that as well. I'm not selective in what criticism I want to see. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, as long as you're engaging with this and kind of letting me know what I can do to do better. Bring it. Bring it. So this is the Boogeyman signing off on a spooky, amnesiac November day, the last of November, if you're watching this when I post it. So I am going to leave you at that. So remember to